Hi all, Rob here from Way Out West. This coming Sunday from 2 p.m, we have the always fabulous Jules Boult and the Redeemers in the club. I absolutely love Jules' music. Yesterday I had a chat with Jules, and this interview doesn't take the normal, history influences type of questions I normally throw out. For the last 10 years, Jules has been leading a very successful music tour to the States. I decided to drill down into the recent trip Jules just undertook. If you wanted to go and see the States, getting on board for the 2026 tour will be a great way to visit the iconic music cities of the southern states. Please hit the like and subscribe button as it really does help me out. And as always, rock on, my friends. You and I have a one thing in common. Well, actually, you can play and I can't. But the other thing we have in common is that we have a great love of music from New Orleans and Memphis and Chicago. When did your love of that type of music come about?
Mm, I'd say it was very early. Really, you know, not an unusual story. Um, Dad's record collection, really. You know, started discovering. He had a lot of Sonny Terry, Brownie McGee, Josh White. I know who doesn't get talked about a lot, but he was one of his favourites, and probably I'd say his favourite was probably Big Bill Brunsey. Um, Now they were all guitar players, but he was a piano player himself, much like me. Um, but I think that's where it started, really.
Yeah, Josh White. I've got a few Josh White. Yeah,
Yeah,
fantastic.
one meatball.
Yes, that's right.
That's
The
isn't it?
last time we
Yeah.
chatted, we sort of spoke about more about your history, but to not go over old ground, if it's all right, I'd really like to have a chat about your big blues music adventure to America, which I think what was from May 24th to July the 11th.
Yes, actually, it was even a bit longer than that. I think I got back about July 18th.
All right.
Yeah.
So when did your involvement with those tours begin, and how many's normally on your tour with you?
Yeah, okay. So the involvement began, well, that tour I just did was the 10-year anniversary. So that gives you an idea of uh, when it all began. Um, and sorry, what was the second question? Just forgot it.
How many
Oh, many
people do you
people.
have on the tour?
This year there was 44 people,
Wow.
which, yeah, and I remember 10 years ago, I think the first ever tour was like 48 people. Um, and for a few years after that, the numbers were always around the 40s. I think probably, you know, there's been a year or two where it dipped a bit, but into the 30s. But on average, about 40 people, I'd say.
Fantastic, man. I didn't realize it was so big. That's huge.
Oh yeah, it's well, that's the beauty of having a group that big is you can fill a club just with the tour group.
So let's go through some of the highlights of the tour. I've just reading the brochure. You stop off at first, is it Bro Bridge? In
Yeah. Well, actually, first fly into Houston because that's sort of if you're heading down south, and if anyone's interested, by the way, a good way to get to the south if you really don't want to go through LA or LAX, I should say. Nothing wrong with LA itself, but LAX. The most direct route is really via Auckland and then into Houston. Yeah, from Houston, hit the road, and the first, Bow Bridge was. I did a gig at a place called Randall's there, which is really a Cajun dance hall. So, um, and yeah, I guess part of what's interesting for me is, in that setting, I was playing with another guitarist, a fiddle player, and an accordion player, and then um, hit hit the road. There was one night there, and then the next night I'm in New Orleans, and of course playing with a totally different lineup. So
Yeah, I'll go through some of the cities because it looks very, and as you said it, that's deep into Cajun country there. And Lafayette, did you get to go to Lafayette as well?
yeah, actually, yeah, spent the night in Lafayette, and the gig was out in Bow Bridge.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And now to my favorite city in the whole world, New Orleans.
yep.
Um, how long did you stay in New Orleans? And I believe you played at Chiquiwawas too, did you?
Yeah, yeah. So it was only in New Orleans for 2 nights because I cover a lot of territory on these tours, which I will probably go through while we're chatting. Um, and yeah, first night arrived into town, and then funny story really. I headed off to Chiquiwawa for a sound check and so on and so forth. And when I got there, the piano wasn't on the stage yet. They, you know, you get asked for stage plots, you send stage plots, and doesn't always get through to the right person. So um, got there, and there was a fella sitting at the bar. It wasn't open. There was a fella sitting at the bar with his girlfriend, who to be honest with you, didn't recognise instantly. The sound guy was there. It was myself and my driver, who's a local bloke and always willing to help. And he said, "All right, everything good?" And I said, "Yeah, but I need a piano." And I don't know if people know if they've been to Chiquiwawa or seen John Cleary, doing his Wednesday nights there. That upright piano is a Steinway, and it's heavy.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so we thought, well, there's three of us plus the bloke at the bar, and so we thought, well, we set about moving on stage, but it was probably a bit of a task for three blokes. So then the sound guy said, "Hey, and I didn't twig at the time. He sort of said, "Oh, CC, can you give us a hand with this piano?" And he's like, "Yeah, okay." So we struggle on the stage, and it wasn't much fun. And then old mate CC turned around and said, "Who's playing this piano anyway?" And I said, "Oh, that'll be me tonight." And he said, I won't use the words because I know this is probably going on YouTube. Um, but he said, "Well, you better be good, otherwise I'll send John Cleary down here to beat you up." And we just had a laugh. He's just. And then he left, and the sound guy said, "Well, do you know CC?" And I'm like, "No, I just met him." He said, "Well, that's CC Adcock from Little Band of Gold." So
Yeah.
he doubles as a roadie lifting pianos. I can just let everyone know. It was a funny moment, really. It's like, it's a small world when you think about it. You get into New Orleans, and iconic venue like Chiquiwawa, and you've got Grammy award-winning musicians helping you lift the piano on the stage. So funny stuff.
See. And you spoke about John Cleary. I remember seeing John Cleary play here at Newport, actually, at the substation. I think it was $60 or $70 a ticket. And then I went to New Orleans. He was sitting out the front of Chiquiwawas. And I think for that night he was playing for tips. I thought, boy, there's no airs and graces in New Orleans.
And that's something that is, I think it's people aren't usually expecting that, or Australians really, when they see the amount of musicians playing for tips, and when I say musicians, real musicians playing for tips over there.
Yeah.
But it's the way they do it. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, it's crazy, all right. After Nola, you hit Highway 61
yep,
onto the city of Natchez, which is a very historical town in Mississippi. What
yeah,
what do you get up to in Natchez?
yeah. Natchez is if anyone's interested, is a fantastic city. I think it was the biggest port on the Mississippi at one point. I think there's a few cities that over time can lay claim to that, but Natchez, there was a lot of money went through Natchez, and if you walk around the streets, I mean, every house in Natchez, to me at least, I mean, I live in St Kilda, looks like a mansion. Lots of the antebellum mansions and so on and so forth. But that night was with the one and only Terry Harmonica Bean at a little place called Smoot's Grocery, which is an old school juke joint overlooking. It's right on the Mississippi River bluff, really. So there's just the juke joint and then the river. Look, I've been playing at Smoots, for 10 years now, and it's if you had to do a blues gig in one place in the world, that'd have to come close to being a great spot, because it's just one of those magical little spots. There's nothing around it. Great people, great venue. What more could you ask for?
And we had Terry Harmonica Bean at, I think that was one of our first gigs when we went to Newport Bowls Club with you.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, that's right,
Yeah,
exactly. And the Natchez, we go back to that too. There's still a an old paddle steamer sits in New Orleans called the Natchez.
Yeah, and that's yeah. Not only does it sit there, it's still is a working boat in terms of, tourist boat. Really, people jump on there. There's a you have it like I think they do jazz brunches and lunches and so on and so forth, and they get the band on there and whatever food they decide you're going to eat, and off the boat goes.
That's right. I love that. What is it? The Calliope. Is it Calliope or whatever it is when we're about to leave and you can hear it all over the city that you
Yeah.
know that Natchez is leaving port.
Oh yeah. Oh, you can hear it. Yeah, yeah. It's not the most. I wouldn't say that bit of the Mississippi is the most picturesque part of it.
No.
But you're in New Orleans, so that's you can't complain about that.
Then you move on to one of the most historical places, Vicksburg, of course, great connection with the Civil War. Then
Mhm.
on to Indianola, B.B. King's hometown. That's a really moving place now because the great man himself's buried there. In
He's buried, yeah, he's buried right there in Indianola Cemetery. And if people haven't been to Indianola, it's a highway town. It's a pass through town, right? You wouldn't ordinarily stop there unless you're a blues fanatic like myself. The cemetery's there where BB's laid to rest. There's a BB King museum now. I reckon it's probably only just about 5 years old or something like that. That's an amazing museum, fantastic. There's a lot of good things that happen there. This bloke that runs that called Robert Terrell, who is a good friend of mine. He also, you know, he's got his fingers in a lot of pies. And what he also runs there, just around the corner, is Club Ebony, which of course we all know is where, well, we know BB started out doing his live gigs there, but when you walk into Club Ebony now, there's a photo gallery, I guess, a whole wall of the venue dedicated to it, and the people that played in that little joint would it's just literally a who's who of blues and soul and R&B greats. I mean, you could throw a name at me, I can almost guarantee you they're on that wall.
yeah, and the museum's a real education centre, very interactive too. I really enjoyed my time there.
Yeah, yeah. So and then that night at Club Ebony, I another fella I've been playing with for about 10 years, a local guy called Big John or Mississippi John Horton. So he brings his band in there, and they've actually done Club Ebony up on the inside, not on the outside. Still looks the same, but inside's got great production and stage and set up. So I said to John, "Yeah, bring the biggest, loudest band you can. We'll plug a couple of loud guitars in and just let rip."
Go for it.
Yeah.
On to Clarksdale. Why is this town a must visit for any blues fan?
Okay, so the obvious. I'll give you the obvious answer, which is that Clarksdale is also the location of the intersection of highways 61 and 49.
Mhm.
Now, if anyone owns a Robert Johnson record or CD, or anyone's seen Crossroads, the movie with, was it Ralph Macchio or whoever it was, and Steve Vai playing guitar, but um, essentially that's where the legend of Robert Johnson selling his soul to the devil in return for prowess as a bluesman and a guitarist. That's where it happened. That's where the legend happened, right there at the crossroads. And there's obviously there's a bit of a marker and a display there and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of people choose to. It's fun to believe that. I think the reality is he actually went out to Dockery Plantation, where Charlie Patton and Son House and all these guys were, and spent about a year or so out there, and then practiced hard, and then came back and was able to play. For me, the reason to visit Clarksdale, if I give you a selfish reason, it's this: it's because Sam Cooke is from Clarksdale.
Yeah.
We all think of Sam, the wonderful Sam Cooke, and we associate him with with Stax, which is up the road in Memphis, of course, and the great, you know, the Stax house band and all the hits he had. But yeah, Sam Cooke's a Clarksdale boy.
It's got a great history with the civil rights too. I remember a fantastic book about Clarksdale and a stopping off place for people that were going up north
Yep.
with the Great Migration and all those sorts of things. So,
That's right. And there's yet again, there's another in a lot of these cities. There's the Delta Blues and Cultural Heritage Museum, I think, in Clarksdale. Which and what you'll find in these places is obviously there's a primary focus on the music, but there's always either a section or smattered in amongst it information about the civil rights movement, obviously, and what went before that, which was the slavery and all that.
I was going to ask you about Robert Johnson's. Did you go to one of his grave sites? We all go to I think there's one of three, but the main one is at that little church. I remember being out there, and
I've been to all of them, Rob, over not this year, over the journey or over the years, and the last one I went to, you sort of you end up down Google rabbit holes and all that. Where is Robert Johnson's grave? And the last one I found, which we decided to go to, was just literally in like a patch of grass in the middle of a field somewhere. I thought, you know what? I think I've kicked this can down the road long enough. Wherever the man's buried, let him rest.
yeah, that's right, exactly right. And just another little connection. I recently went and seen the film Sinners. I don't know if you've seen that. There's a lot of connections there you can see. But have you seen that movie? It's
Look,
some great
it's
music
on
in it.
my list. I've mentioned a couple of times to my wife and said, "Listen, we got to watch this movie, Sinners." Many people have told me about it. I think actually when I was over there, I was seeing trailers for it and promo for it.
Yeah.
I thought that looks great, but I haven't had the chance yet.
Yeah, don't you love it? Blues music and vampires. It's a real good mix, you know.
Yeah, well, musicians are up late.
That's right.
So we're all kind of vampires.
Now, you did mention Memphis there before. I've been to Memphis a number of times. I don't know. Sometimes I think Memphis is looking a little sad. Beale Street, it's sort of a little cliched. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, interesting you mentioned Beale Street. Is that for the first time this year I noticed you actually have to pay to get onto Beale Street now.
Mm.
So you got to barricade it up, you get searched and so on and so forth. And I think it's pay you $10 or something like that to get onto the street. So it has changed a bit in the last few years really. But it's no secret that Memphis does have a bit of a crime problem, and I think it was largely out in the neighborhoods, but they haven't really got a handle on it. So until they do, I think it started to impact areas like Beale Street as well and that sort of stuff. Look, the music, there's still great music to be found. A good friend of mine, Chris Pitts, who's been out to Australia on one of my blues conference events. He's like the mayor of Beale Street. He does gigs all around there. There's still great plays to be seen. There's probably some more authentic venues out in the neighbourhood, like Wild Bill's Juke Joint comes to mind. But that's Beale Street. I think what Memphis does have today that none of the other cities, they all have it to a point, but Memphis really owns it, is places you can visit like Sun Studios, Stax Records, the actual National Civil Rights Museum. There's now another, Blues Hall of Fame. It just at W.C. Handy's house there at the bottom of Beale Street. So it's still, Beale Street aside, it's still, for any lover of blues music, it would still be an essential stop, I would think. I personally, I like Memphis a lot. I guess I do have a few friends there and things like that, which makes it that experience for me. But there's something about the place. Yeah, it's a little rough around the edges, but again, I'm pretty seasoned to that stuff, and I usually find myself hanging out with the
The
the people that you ordinarily wouldn't, but
yeah.
that's all right.
I did notice. It's got a great chicken place there, is it? I can't think of that name.
Yeah, Gus's.
Gus's Chicken. Yeah,
Yep.
it's always busy. But that little area there, pushing up a bit further, has become quite gentrified. Lots
Yep.
of coffee shops and
Yeah, funny you mentioned that. So, um, what if for people that were interested, Beale Street ends pretty much on the Mississippi River, right? So it's I would say that's the top of Beale Street or the foot of Beale Street, whichever you want to say. But up that end of Beale Street and crossing it is Main Street, and then Front Street, which is Front Street is closest to the river. Yeah, a lot of development there, a lot of new places, fancy cafes. You can get a real coffee,
mm.
stuff like that. That yes, you're 100% correct, and that extends. That sort of development where you can see money being spent extends all the way from Beale Street, really, down towards the Civil Rights Museum. Good, couple of miles or something like that.
For those that don't know, haven't been there, when we talked about the Civil Rights Museum, which every time I go there, it's very hard not to cry.
Yeah.
But it's the Lorraine Motel is, attached to the museum. Can you tell people why the Lorraine Motel is such an important stop?
Yep. Okay. So the Lorraine Motel was the site of where Martin Luther King was actually assassinated. So as you approach the museum, and you're right, it's all integrated. The hotel has been integrated into the museum, and in fact, as you sort of end the self-guided tour of the museum, which I'll tell you now, if you do it properly, it'll take you hours to get through it. If you really want to take in everything, it would take hours. I've been back multiple times and I still haven't seen everything. Yeah, that tour sort of ends in the Lorraine Motel, adjacent to the room Martin Luther King was staying in, and of course he was out in his balcony when he was shot, just from across the way from a building, probably I would say no more than 60 or 70 meters away. It was, and that building is still there, and the window from which the shot was fired is still there and just cracked ajar. And you can actually go into that building too.
Yeah,
Have a
I
look around.
remember going up to where where his room is, and there was a African American lady there, I don't know, maybe in her 40s, and she had a young kid with her, and they were standing there, and there were tears, and I said to her, "I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. I shouldn't be here. Just." I didn't
Yeah,
want to impose on them. And she turned around, she said, "You've got every right to be here." So I thought, oh man, that was pretty
that's
cool.
the answer. And yeah, not only every right, but I think it's actually very important.
Yeah.
I tell people, I say, if you only go to one, if you're not a museum person, if you want to
Mm.
do something else, you like to go for a run or walk, whatever, during the day, and you don't do museums, if there's one you go to, that's the one you must go to.
Yeah, so right.
Yeah.
And you move on to the Music City, Nashville. Now, some blues fans are a bit anal and aren't really country people, but I love all music. Um, what do you get up to in Nashville?
Usually for me, Nashville is a recording stop.
Mhm.
Um, you're right. Some people just, perhaps, I'd say, a little incorrectly label Nashville as a country music city, but it's just a music city, and that's probably, to be completely honest with you, I chose to record there. It's been a few times now, just because of the quality of the guys you can record with. Also, the setups. There's a lot of, I guess, the standards are high in Nashville because the competition is high, right? Um, and so what it means is every studio in Nashville is competing with each other, so they're all good.
Mm.
Every musician is competing for a session or a gig. They're all good. Some of them are scary good, you know.
Mm.
And you can still, certainly on Broadway, which is the main street, which is Nashville's Bill or Bourbon Street, if you will. Yeah, very much. There's lots of country honky tonks as you'd expect, but there's a few blues bars smattered in around there too, where the quality of the blues is as good as you'll see anywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We went and seen a Western swing band called the Time Jumpers, which wasn't on
yeah.
Broadway. Oh man,
That would be at the Station Inn
that's
up
it.
in the
Yeah,
Gulch. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And man, that Nashville hot chicken that blows your head off.
I don't touch it.
Yeah.
No, I listen. I love fried chicken, and yeah, certainly the Louisiana and Mississippi and Memphis fried chicken, which are all kind of in the same ballpark, I'd say. But that Nashville stuff is hot. I skip it. You know what I do have in Nashville though is their fried pickles.
Ah,
Best
okay.
place I've had that,
Good.
and they do that very well.
Yeah, yeah,
Fried pickles, try it.
yeah. Yeah, I know when I was in trouble when I said I'll just have the medium Nashville chicken and it just blew my head off. I don't know
Yeah.
what the hot one's like.
No, it could be anything. It
Yeah.
could be it could be crocodile. You can't taste the chicken.
Now you move on to Louisville, Kentucky. I guess that's not a real music destination, but did you get into some of their bourbon there?
Uh, well, I've been a non-drinker for some time now, Rob. So I didn't get into it. You can certainly smell it
Yeah.
though everywhere you go. I mean, I actually stopped by. We do visit a distillery just to check out the whole um, process and that sort of stuff. Like, look, yeah, smelt great, didn't taste it,
Yeah.
but there is again, and largely Louisville is a bit of a stop. An overnight between Nashville and Chicago because that's actually, if anyone's done that drive, you know that's um, if you were to drive from Nashville to Chicago, it'd take you a good day or so, you know, with especially with traffic getting into Chicago or even before that, getting through Indianapolis and places like that. So, but again, Louisville does have a music scene, a little precinct, and they got, of course, a bar there called Stevie Ray's Blues Bar,
Okay.
which I've been going to for 10 years. I walk in the door there now and they're like, the Australian's back, you know.
Fantastic.
Next thing I know, I'm just being, up on the stage playing with someone.
Yeah.
And yeah, Stevie Ray's Blues Bar. So if anyone's passing through Louisville and you need some blues,
Mhm.
that's the place. I think they got music most nights of the week.
Mhm.
Good people too. Yeah.
And then on to Detroit City, the famous Motor City, and of course Motown Records. Whenever I've read about Detroit City, because their car industry sort of closed down, it was pretty run down city. Is it coming back a little?
Yeah. Okay. So the Detroit downtown area, if you will, you can see that they've spent a lot of money on it, and it's it's clean, looks good. They're obviously huge football and baseball fans because you can see that's where a lot of the money has gone. But I must say those stadiums, I forget the name of the baseball. What do they call it? A diamond field
Yeah, Diamond. Yeah,
stadium, but is very impressive.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, we talk about Wrigley Field and all the other great places. Um, yeah, the one in Detroit is pretty impressive. Not that I really follow the baseball, but is impressive. Downtown is great. However, what you'll notice in Detroit is the downtown is empty. And I was speaking to a local, and he sort of advised that even though they've spent the money on the city and the downtown, uh, the people of Detroit are somewhat stuck in their ways, and all the action is in the neighborhoods and the suburbs, right? And they tend not to go downtown. You know, it's just really for people going to work. So,
Yeah.
um, but there was, yeah. So I'd say it's, you can see they're trying. It's probably going to take a generation or so to
Yeah, yeah.
get.
I'm a big, huge baseball fan. I played baseball for about 20 something years, so or longer, 30 years maybe. And when you mentioned Wrigley Field, I remember going to see the White Sox and the Cubs play at Wrigley Field, and the seventh inning stretch, we all sang "Sweet Home Chicago." I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, Detroit Tigers, I believe,
It
is.
is the Tigers. Yeah, you're right. It is.
Can't think of the name of the field now, but yeah.
You should.
Actually, you know what? It's probably, I know the football field is, of course, Ford Stadium,
Yeah,
right? Well, yeah, pretty much everything is labelled Ford in Detroit.
yeah.
So
You know, I keep jumping around here, but when we did one of those swamp tours in New Orleans, the guy said a lot of the Spanish moss that Ford used to use the Spanish moss in his seats.
seats, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's cool.
Do you know why it's called Spanish moss?
No.
Well, you know, I, like probably a lot of people, or maybe I'm just an idiot, but I assumed it had, because we're aware that before the French Quarter in New Orleans, it was a Spanish Quarter,
Yes.
of course. So I had thought it had something to do with that, but no, it's purely, it got its name because of how it looks, and they said it looked like the Spaniards' beards.
Ah, okay.
Back in the time, they wore long beards. And if anyone's seen Spanish moss hanging from the trees,
Mm.
yeah, that's why they call it Spanish moss.
All right. Never stop learning.
Yeah,
Now, your last stop is we were just talking about Chicago, and you go there for the Chicago Blues Festival, which I'd absolutely love to do, which is in June, I think. But
yeah.
yeah,
Usually the first weekend in June, and
yeah,
runs Friday, Saturday, Sunday. In fact, I think they've started doing little side shows and whatnot on the Thursday night as well. Like I was coming into town on the Thursday and got there a bit late, but I'm trying to think, like Bobby Rush and a few other people were playing at a theatre just downtown
yeah,
as a pre-festival show. So
yeah,
yeah, it's a great festival. It's a free festival. People that are interested,
yeah,
they do focus to a degree on Chicago acts. I think that's part of their programming, but there's no problem there because there's the laundry list of great players
yeah.
right there in Chicago, and then and then players from around the other parts of the South as well. There's a stage dedicated to the Mississippi. I think it's the Jackson Mississippi Blues Association or something. So
Okay,
that
cool.
caters to Mississippi artists, and yeah,
I remember Chicago. I think we went out to a place. Is it Kingston Mines? I think
yep,
it was.
Kingston Mines, yep,
Yeah,
on the north side,
yeah,
yep.
on the north side. That's right. Yeah, and
Yeah, and yeah, there's Kingston Mines up on the north side, and then on Halstead Street, there's a bunch of blues bars. Places like Blue Chicago and
yeah,
whatnot, where some of the headliners that play at that festival on the big, it's got a big natural amphitheater where the festival takes place, and that's the main stage. There could be 3, 4, 5,000 people in front of it, sort of thing.
well,
People performing on that stage, a day later will be up at Blue Chicago, which is about as big as, it's smaller than the Rainbow in Fitzroy.
yeah,
And then
cool.
yeah, so it's a lot of good, and of course, it's just the notable bar on the south side is really Buddy Guy's.
Yes, yeah, been there. Yeah, and you can go to Chess Records there too, can't you? Because I
Yeah,
think, yeah,
the
yeah,
Dixon family have, I think, maintained that and
yes, yeah,
and run with that. The Dixon family being the descendants of Willie Dixon.
yeah. I
Um,
think his grandson took us around on the tour, which was pretty cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's excellent to see because Chess Record, I mean, did did more blues hits, because let's not forget, blues was the pop music,
mm,
well, one considered pop music in the time. So they had a notion of hits and charts and whatnot.
mm,
Uh, did more blues hits come out of anywhere else other than Chess Records? I
mm, mm,
I don't know the answer, but I'd be
uh,
surprised if.
mm. And another famous street there was Maxwell Street, where they used to,
Yeah,
virtually busk. But
Hound Dog Taylor made
yeah,
his
Yeah.
on Maxwell Street, and we were talking about Natchez before. Hound Dog Taylor is a Natchez boy.
Ah, okay.
He's from,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Rough and ready, mate, but just the greatest music you can hear.
Oh yeah, why don't even bother tuning your guitar.
No.
Just take it out of the case, or
What do you have, 6 fingers on one hand or something?
that's right. Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and that's, I mean, you can finish the tour there, but then you can go on to New York and
yep,
do the blues festival. That's incredible. And you've done tours to Europe too, I believe.
yep, yeah. This time last year I was in Europe,
Yeah.
and um, obviously the obvious difference between Europe and the States is it it doesn't have the, I guess, the iconic, the historic element, and so on and so forth. So the Europe tour is very much a you know a, a tour through Europe, and starting really sort of Germany and taking in the Netherlands, trying to think, France, the UK, places like that.
Mm.
Um, it's really about still visiting iconic music venues, whether it be jazz, blues, or for instance, in Hamburg, Germany. While you're there, you got to go and check out the what they pronounce as the Reeperbahn, but it's spelt, that's the German pronunciation. We would say Reeperbahn. I think it's spelled REAP something Bahn, but that's basically their Bourbon Street.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, mate, they could show the Americans the thing or two. That place is crazy.
They know how to drink.
That's where the Beatles cut their teeth,
Ah, is
right?
Hamburg Club there or?
Yeah. So that whole area, which are the Reeperbahn in Hamburg, is essentially also the red light district,
Uh-huh.
one of them, because Hamburg being a port city, it's right on the port. We all know the history of the sailors and so on and so forth. But yeah, right there in that little area is where the Beatles, I think, played 7 nights a week.
Mm. And you mentioned Big Bill Brunzi before. I believe he went to Germany. A lot of them went to Europe because they were, and France. They were treated like people. They weren't discriminated against.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Big Bill Brunzi was one of the guys had a pretty successful career across Europe.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
Germany, and I think there's recordings of him at Carnegie Hall in
mm, mm,
in sorry, Albert Hall, Royal Albert Hall. I was getting my halls mixed up.
Some of those iconic tours in the '60s. I still that Sister Rosetta Tharpe singing
Yeah,
on the station. Didn't it rain, Chillum? And oh man, that is a
yeah,
classic.
yeah. And a lot of them made their, well, not a lot, but made their home in Europe as well. A couple come to mind. Nina Simone's one,
Mm, mm, mm.
jazz and blues, but
Yeah.
Tina Turner as well. I think
Oh, okay.
she
Mm.
ended up being based in France or Switzerland. I know Nina Simone was France. Yeah.
And are you going to do the tours again in 2026?
But if people want to come, oh,
Well, how do they get in? How do they get on the tour with you?
yep, okay. The best, well, they can, if anyone's watching this and they know how to find me, I'm
Mm,
more than happy for you to reach out to me via the usual means. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram or whatever and send me a message.
mm,
Or the less personal way to do it is the the company that does all the logistics
mm,
and so on and so forth, and ultimately the bookings, if people want to go, is a company by the name of Travel Right, and I'll spell that because it's TRAVELRITE, Travel Right.
yep.
If you Google Travel Right, I think you go to their menu and you look at music
Mm,
tours
mm,
and click on that, and you'll find everything you need. And they do a lot of different music tours. They're actually their DNA for a long time was a lot of Celtic music and country music,
mm,
and they wanted to expand. If we going back to how it all happened, they were wanting to, or were they considering doing a blues tour, but it wasn't really their area of
mm,
expertise. And they were sitting at the Rainbow one day having a beer, talk, saying, "We should look at this blues music. It's great, and all these people here. We should do a blues tour." And they both agreed they wouldn't have known where to start. So they just approached me in my set break,
Wow.
introduced themselves, said, "Look, this is what we think you're doing. You want to have a coffee during the week?" I said, "Sure."
It's a great way to do it too, mate. I guess if you're not been to some of these cities and you feel a bit intimidated going by yourself, having someone there that's been there and's got all the ins and can point you in the right direction. It's just a very great way to do it.
Yeah,
Out to win Tats Lotto, mate, and you've got me then.
yeah, that's probably one of the things when it's all said and done. Um, we talked a lot about museums and whatnot, which anyone that's got access to TripAdvisor would know where to go, get a ticket, go to a museum, and you'll have a great time. But the thing that probably consistently people say to me is, and I'm talking about the Smoots Grocery or Chicky Wawa or Club Ebony or whatever, because really, if you see where they are,
Yep.
that people would say we would never have come here.
Yep.
We would never have seen these fine musicians, stuff like that. So it's let's face it, we could all book a trip and successfully enjoy it, but it does, I guess, what I'm able to provide is, as you say, those ins, those connections, and people not only go to these places, but literally can sit down and talk to these great musicians as well
Yeah.
and enjoy the music.
Yeah, it's sensational. Now, just quickly, we'll go back to the gig we've got coming up way out west this Sunday, the 20th of July. So looking forward to that, mate. Who have you got playing with you on Sunday?
Depends who texts me back. No, just go. I don't want to scare you. Got the Redeemers, of course, which will be Mark Grundon on the drums, Aaron Machado on the sousaphone, and it's probably way out west one sousaphone gig for the year. And Andrew Houston on the saxophone and Declan Jones on the trumpet.
And was it Andrew that we seen up at Broadbeach?
Yes.
Yeah. Now that was a great little gig.
That's right. That was the week. That was a few days before I actually left.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great little gig. There's a funny story there. I don't, I've done Broadbeach over the years, but it often clashed with when I go to the States. Well, for about the last 10 years it has. I think the last one I'd done was 2014, in fact. And I got a call. I always see it come out and look who's playing. So that's great. Looks like fun. And I got a call maybe only 6 weeks before the festival. This was some bloke from Gold Coast. He said, "Oh, thank God you answered." He said, "I've been trying to reach you for months." He said, "I just about gave up." And he said, "Listen, we've got this great little bar. It's the Thursday night, which is, was it the Thursday night? Might have been the Thursday or Friday. Early in the festival, yeah. And we want to sort of, treat it as a bit of a launch of the festival and a bit of an exclusive, event. It was a small event, but in a really nice place." And he said, "Yeah." And Mark Duckworth, who's the musical director up there, said to him, he said, "No, get this guy, get Jules, he'll do it. That's who we want." So thankfully I answered my phone and I said, "Yeah, right, come up for the night." Just went up for the night. I don't think I was even in Queensland for more than about 16 hours, to be honest. Got there in the afternoon, left in the first thing in the morning. So
I loved it, and it was like being in a New Orleans bordello with all the red lights and that. And normally when they say, "Oh, you're going to get, two cocktails and a tapas or whatever, however you say that," you get one plate of. The food just kept coming out. It was just, it was amazing. Yeah,
you didn't. Yeah, they didn't just do one plate of chicken nuggets.
Yeah, and two of the people we were sitting with have been on one of your tours. There was a huge connection.
After 10 years now, I'm finding pretty much any gig I do these days, someone from one of the tours happens to be there, which I feel very fortunate for, because it just, I guess to me it shows the impact it has.
Yes.
And these are, again, another thing that's said to me by people is, these are lifelong memories.
Oh, yeah.
This is something I'll never forget. And it's really nice to see people, dare I say it, after 10 years, the alumni
Yeah.
There's those that have been and those that have not.
I've got to make sure I'm going to be one of those that have one day. All right, mate. That's about all I've got. I think I know it turned into a bit of a travel log, but I thought that was really interesting to talk about it. And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
It's all
Um,
good stuff.
and we'll see you Sunday. And yeah, stay safe, my friend.